Hey guys, I'm Ivory, and today I will be continuing my story, part 2 of why my family decided to boycott my wedding. If you haven't already watched part 1, I highly suggest you do. I will link it in my description box because I think you might be lost if you see this one first. But this is part 2 of a 2-part series, so this is the last video I'm going to be making on this topic. Before I begin, I just want to say that these videos have been very freeing and cathartic for me. Experiencing it was one thing, but to be able to write it down, film it, edit it, and kind of like go through the whole thing, it's been very freeing to say the least. Now that it is out, I do feel like a sense that I can finally let this go. I don't want this one moment in my life to weigh me down anymore, and it has for a very long time. So I'm definitely gonna finish the story. But after some time, I might unlist these videos. I haven't completely decided yet. Almost as a symbolism, like if I take down the video, it's almost as if I'm shedding myself of my family completely, letting them go, and finally choosing happiness. At least that's how I think of it. Like I said, I haven't completely made a decision yet, but in the future, just know that I may or may not unlist these videos. But before I do that, let's finish the story. So just a very, very condensed recap of part 1. My mother wanted me to invite someone to the wedding. I tried to put my foot down, and because I stood my ground, she and many family members decided that they were not going to come to our wedding. So the day that it happened, I remember it was a Saturday late morning or early afternoon, and by that night, I just remember I was just crying. I know in my last video I seemed very angry, and my anger embodies a lot of things. It's not just anger that I'm feeling, it's frustration, it's sadness. I was feeling a lot of things because I was just so disappointed in my family. I was upset. I just remember crying to Steve that I couldn't believe my family would not want to show up on a day that's so important to me for something that seemed so trivial. So Saturday night, thinking about it, I had a mix of emotions. I'm sad, frustrated, and I'm also very stubborn. At that moment in time, I did not want to budge on this issue. And I also didn't want to compromise because, like I said, I'm so stubborn. I'm one of those people where I don't like to be told what to do, and I especially don't like to be told what to do when you have an attitude. So this was both of those things. So I really did not want to compromise. I don't know what it is. It's just like when I hear compromise, I hear lose. I know, I'm working on it, okay? But that is how I was feeling at that moment. By the following Monday, so Saturday, Sunday, Monday comes around, and my aunt calls me. Let's call her Aunt Connie. Now, background on Aunt Connie, I love her. She is basically the only family member that I still talk to this day. She is like normal, like me, like we think very much alike. She is such a wonderful person. She enriches everybody's lives that she's in. She's just a great, giving, kind person. So she's the only person in my family that I still talk to. We love Aunt Connie on this channel, but Aunt Connie calls me, and I was surprised that she called me on a Monday because I thought she would call me right after the incident, but she actually gave me, she knew about the incident, but she gave me the weekend to cool off. She calls me Monday and she says, Aunt Mary called me. You guys remember Aunt Mary from part 1. She's the one that my mom talked to, and then she spread the gossip like wildfire. So she said Aunt Mary called her, which is obviously her sister. And when Aunt Mary explained to her everything that happened, Aunt Connie was like, yeah, I'm going to the wedding. How do you think it's gonna look on her wedding day? Steve's family is all there and they're happy for him and like caring about him, and then she looks over and no one is there at her side. Ivory's gonna be so embarrassed. I'm not doing that to her. Thank God for Aunt Connie. She's like, y'all can be petty if you want to, but I'm going to be there. I will be at Ivory's wedding. So after she told me that conversation, she was like, okay, Ivory, you're eventually gonna need to talk to your mom because, like I said, I had to pick up the wedding dresses that my mom was gonna alter the following week. So either way, I have to run into my mom again to at least pick them up. So that would be your chance to hash things out. You know, in my opinion, I think you would regret not having her at your wedding. At the very least, I think you would regret at least not talking to her beforehand, at least trying to hash this out before just saying like she's not coming to the wedding. So, you know, you have a week to think about it because you have to see her to pick up the dresses. So take your time, cool off, and then you and Steve think about what your next move is, what you're gonna say, but make sure that whatever decision you make it in a calm state. And I took that to heart because I completely understand. You don't want to be making decisions when you're hostile. So me and Steve, after we've calmed down, we think about what our next move is, what is in the best interest of us, and also what my family wants. Is there some way we can meet in the middle? I know some people may disagree, like, no, it's your wedding, have it your way, but you know, I don't know. I felt like just to take the high road, maybe we could do some type of compromise. So the decision we came up with is that we would apologize. I know, hear me out. We would first apologize for perhaps not being more considerate about the guest list. Maybe we could have bypassed this entire argument if when we were creating the guest list, I just called her ahead of time and just said, okay, I'm coming up with the guest list. Is there anyone specific that you want me to invite? And I will consider it. it. It doesn't necessarily mean yes. It just means that, you know, your input has been heard and then I will make the final verdict, something like that. But we also think that we deserve an apology. And the apology would obviously be because she put us in this situation, made people pick sides. And Steve was very firm about this apology. He was not wavering. I told Steve that Asian households, they do not apologize. I'm sorry, I've never heard that from any Asian in my house ever, especially from people that are not super Americanized, like that weren't born here. I'm sorry is not in their vocabulary. Okay, so I told him, I was like, I don't think you can get an apology. And Steve stood firm. He's like, then she can't come to the wedding. And I was nervous. I was really nervous about that. So I feel like the whole week, me and Steve, we go over every single scenario. Like, I'm my mom, Steve is me, and like I am Steve. Like, we go back and forth doing this role play, trying to come up with every single scenario to be prepared. You know, you always want to hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So we came up with every single possibility that she may say or do. We wanted to be prepared here. And it was just very important to me that we stood firm as a unit. So the whole week goes by and it's the weekend. I text her that what time I'm going to be coming over, and we arrive. We're all sitting on the couch. I remember it's Steve, me, my mom. I start off apologizing first. I said basically what we practiced, that I apologized for not including her more and that I could have been more considerate. My mom kind of like just nods and takes the apology almost as if she thinks we're admitting defeat. Like she's like, I don't know. That was my impression. This is all conjecture. But afterwards, Steve speaks up and he says, we'd like an apology from you so that we can feel okay about moving forward. She was not prepared for that. She was not ready for that. She should have had little skits like me and Steve did. She goes, why would I apologize? And Steve says, because you made this really stressful for us, creating drama that could have been resolved between us, or at least handled differently instead of going to such extremes. She doubled down and she's like, I told you that this was going to create drama. I told you that people were not going to come to the wedding once they heard that this person wasn't invited. So like, you brought this on yourself basically. And Steve is like, yeah, because you made them do that. You made them pick sides, which is really unfair to us. Steve and my mom are kind of going back and forth. I don't say much because I'm crying. I hate this about myself, but does anybody else, like when you deal with confrontation, you just end up crying? Not because you're sad necessarily, because you're frustrated or the idea of confrontation stresses you so much out that you just start bawling. Like I hate that I do that. I have no idea. How do lawyers argue without crying? I genuinely want to know, because I don't think I could ever do it. I'm crying, so it's hard for me to speak because I'm so focused on trying to stop crying that my words, they just don't come out, or they don't come out right. So Steve handles it a lot more calmly. So they're going back and forth. Steve's still pushing. My mom's not budging until finally Steve says, if you don't apologize, we don't want you at the wedding. Yo, the balls on Steve. Wow, I was not ready for that. I mean, we definitely prepared for that, but I thought we would argue longer before we got there. You know what I mean? So like Steve was just like, okay, fine. Like, I'm not going to be fighting with you for an hour. 10 minutes of this is enough. What's it going to be? He's not saying any of this. This is all like kind of just like I'm narrating from afar. After he says that, she's silent for a little bit of time and she just says, I'm not apologizing. And me and Steve, we look at each other and just realize that this is going nowhere. We all had a moment of silence. We didn't really know where to go from there. So I just broke the ice and I said, okay, I'm gonna go upstairs and I'm gonna go get my dresses. And remember, I had my actual wedding dress and then my bridesmaid's dress that she was altering. And she says, no, I'll still fix the dresses. I made that promise, so I'll keep my promise, as if she's doing me another favor. I didn't want that. We literally just established that you're not gonna come to the wedding, and yet I'm gonna come here in a couple weeks for my dress fitting, and I'm supposed to just stand there looking in the mirror and be like, oh my God, look how good this dress fits. Too bad you're not gonna be there to see me on my wedding day. Like, how awkward would that be? That just did not make sense to me. So I just said, no, I'm gonna take the dress. After that, I reached into my purse and I pulled out a $2,000 check. Now, if you remember in part 1, as our engagement gift, she gave me a $2,000 check as a gift for the wedding. And she said that the money can go towards the wedding, but that on the actual wedding day, don't expect anything. Like, this is the gift. I just did not feel comfortable keeping that money. And me and Steve discussed that the week leading up to this day, that I just didn't feel like the money was worth it if we're gonna argue over these things. And I didn't want her to hold this hostage over me any longer. So I gave her a check. I already cashed the check, so I had to write a new check to her. I said, I have to give you this back. I was thankful that you gave me the money, but me and Steve want to have our wedding the way we envisioned it. And if this money is going to get in the way of that, then we can't keep it. I think by doing that, she realized how serious me and Steve are. Like, we did not come here to bluff. We are dead serious about our expectations. She looks at the check. We're all quiet. I look at her and I don't exactly remember what I said, but it was something along the lines of just me being disappointed about how this day went and just why is it so hard for her to admit that she was wrong. All of a sudden, she just opens her arms and she embraces me, and I was not ready for that. I wasn't ready for a lot of things, but I definitely wasn't ready for that. So I was crying in her arms. She's consoling me, or trying to, as she's holding me. In a 9/11 like twist, she goes, okay, sorry. As bare minimum as that apology sounded, I knew it took a lot for my mom to even just say that. We took it as a success, question mark. I think we were kind of just tired of fighting at this point, you know, like it really wore me down. So we took the apology. We kind of hugged it out, you know, she hugged me and then she hugged Steve, and Steve said thank you. We tried to make up a little bit, and then she said that it might be a good idea to go visit my grandparents and explain to them our side of the story, because you know they were involved, they were informed of the situation. So all three of us drive, me and Steve together, and then my mom, we all head over to go visit my grandparents. We tried to explain that we're having a small wedding and we want to keep it small. And then me and Steve, I don't know if we thought of it ahead of time or if we thought of it right there and then, but we ended up compromising. I said that we will send out the invitations as is, and of course not everyone is going to come to the wedding, so whoever declines the invitation and cannot come, that spot will be open and they can give me a list of whoever they think it's important that they would like to invite, and whatever spot is open, I will send the invite after the fact. So that was our compromise. While we were going over the list of people that they would like me to include, they did talk about my dad. I explained more in depth about my relationship with my dad, but at this point it was non-existent. I had not talked to him in years. I wasn't sure about inviting him, but they said that it was important that he be invited. My grandparents, they're more traditional obviously, and they were like, I can't imagine being a parent and not being able to see my daughter or my son's wedding, like to not be invited, like that would hurt my feelings. Maybe just send him the invitation and whatever he does with it, he does with it. I was like, okay. And you know, the fact that we were having a normal sit down conversation, being open about it, I was more flexible. But I did end up calling my dad and telling him I'm getting married. There's only a month, so you know, it's short notice. Surprisingly, that was enough notice for my dad. He was like, okay, I will be there. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Do you want to include anyone to come with you? The reason I was okay with him having a guest was because he would be the only person representing my dad's side. Like it would be far outnumbered. I didn't know how he would react being alone, so I thought maybe he should bring a brother or sister as, you know, an ally, someone to talk to at the wedding, because I'm not gonna be able to talk to him. I have so many people to talk to that day. So I said you could bring some people, and he's like, okay, I will talk to my brothers and sisters and I will let you know. He was so nice about it. I actually let him have a whole table. I think it was like 10 people of all his siblings, so he was definitely not alone there. At some point, Uncle Tony did get an invite. I know some of you may not agree with that, but it's hard to say what my thought process was, but it is what it is. He did show up, and all the people who said that they weren't going to show up at my wedding ended up showing up. And not that I expected it, but no one apologized, with the exception of my mom, that we had to pull it out of her. But no one apologized. I remember the one uncle who said, like, so since your mom's not going, grandma, grandpa, and my sister isn't going, I'm not coming, so count me out. The way he got back into the wedding, he saw me at a get-together a couple weeks before my wedding, and he says, oh, just so you know, I'm gonna have the steak and mashed potatoes at your wedding, so that's my meal. Like he just, that was his way of saying I'm coming to the wedding, and I just accepted it. I didn't want to worry more about it. I had other things I was focusing on, so I just kind of let it go. The wedding overall though was great. I had a great time at my wedding. I will say though that even though I protested inviting my dad, inviting him actually ended up being a great thing. I could tell at the wedding my dad was really trying. Even though his family was there, he really tried to go to my side of the family and just like initiate conversation. You could tell that he really wanted to see them. He was excited. He was trying, which I thought was wonderful. One of my favorite moments of my wedding was he pulled me aside. He gave me this bracelet. I don't know if his mother from Vietnam was saving it for me, like it was an heirloom, or if she had it made for me, but he gave me a bracelet to wear and to keep. So whenever I look at that bracelet, it's connected to, I think of my dad. And of course, you know, the wedding reception is really loud, so I'm shouting in his ear so that he can hear me. But I said, I know I'm really busy talking to everyone, but I just wanted you to know that I acknowledge and I appreciate what you did to be here for me, and I'm really happy that you're back in my life, and I hope that we can start fresh. He started crying. I started crying. It was a very emotional thing. Like, I was very happy that I ended up inviting him, because now me and my dad actually have reconnected. He messages me every couple of months and I message him every couple of months, just like a wellness check. How's it going? How's your family? Hope you're okay. So some good did come out of it. As far as after the wedding, I have little to no contact with my family aside from my dad and Aunt Connie. They're pretty much the only ones that I talk to, and I think it's best that way. Before I go, I have a couple things to say. For one, as I said in the first video, there's 3 sides to every story. There's my side, there's their side, and there's the truth, something in the middle. So this is my side. I also want to remind people that this happened over 3 years ago, actually closer to 4 years ago. At the end of all that, I got married to my soulmate. He is an amazing person. Our life is great. I have no complaints. I'm doing fine, okay? I don't want people worried about me. Of course, you know, that feeling comes and goes, but I'd say overall, I'm like, right now, I'm good. And the last thing I want to say is this story isn't uncommon. You know, weddings bring out the worst in people. I don't know why, because I haven't been to a lot of weddings and I'm actually the first out of all my friends to get married, so I really don't have a lot of experience with it and I don't fully understand why, but it just brings out a different side to people. Despite how some people in my family have behaved because of this incident, it doesn't reflect completely on their actual character. So I do not hate them. I sincerely wish them well. I hope whatever they're doing with their lives, they are thriving, they are happy, they are healthy, and they are safe. But like over there, you know, away from me. But that is it for this video. I promise that the next couple of videos, they will be makeup related. We're gonna go back to normal for a little bit, but I will say, just a little sneak peek, I have the most adorable foster coming in a couple weeks. I think the 27th or the 28th, and I do plan on finally filming. You guys asked for it, but you guys wanted me to film a day in the life of a foster dog, foster parent, whatever. So you will get to see this gorgeous puppy. So yeah, that video is gonna come out and it's not makeup related, of course, but you guys wanted to see it, so it will come. That is all. I will see you in my next video.